So Ryan, tell me, what do you do and how long have you been doing it for?
So I develop products on behalf of clients, and that's everything from initial concept sketches right the way through prototyping and testing to design for manufacture and supplier liaison. So that's real products in customers' hands. And I've been doing this for about 20 years now.
Brilliant. So just getting started then.
Yeah, well, just getting started. I'm on Belfast product design now is in its third year.
Brilliant. And so who would your ideal customer look like then, or what would your ideal customer look like?
Somebody who's got quite a firm handle on their specification, so they understand exactly what it is that they want, what their target manufacturing price is. So somebody who's done a lot of the upfront research, and they're not just coming with an idea that they had over the weekend.
Yeah, and what sort of thing would the product maybe be then that they would want to manufacture?
Well, we work across a number of different sectors, medical. Medical devices, so it's anything from kind of surgical equipment, lab equipment, medical devices. Consumer products is a big section of what we do. I mean, that could be a tool for the garden, something for the kitchen or car, a toy, and then industrial, again, is quite a lot of our projects are in the industrial space. So that could be, anything from lab equipment to we've worked on wind sails for cranes before, heavy engineering, earth moving equipment, that kind of thing.
Really diverse then.
Yeah, it's quite diverse, quite interesting.
Okay, so what was the biggest impact on the business of COVID-19? And give me one or two actions you've taken since the pandemic.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, we were looking at that stage. We're just getting started really with the business, growing the team. And we had plans to take on a couple of senior engineers and designers, and also a graduate or student on placement. And we tried to do that in terms of the graduate anyway, but it's very tough unless you're sat in the same office as a junior engineer. It's quite difficult to monitor what they're doing and provide them with the support that we need. So we had to put plans on hold for that, and they're still on hold. Really, we've done a little bit of work experience with a few guys and had them on for a couple of months. But really, to do like a full year's placement or to take a graduate engineer on full time, we need to be back in the office. And working remotely has actually turned out to be a bit of a blessing, because that's allowed us to do, is to expand the net a little bit wider. So for example, one of our lead engineers is actually working in Scotland, full-time based there. We run all our design review meetings over Zoom, and it's working really well. I think that only works well because, he's also a guy with kind of 20 years experience under his belt who can work autonomously.
Sure. So what's been, you've been in business 3 years with this current business, is that right? So what's been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
I think probably that people do business with other people. It really surprised me how many people kind of came out of the woodworks, the wrong term, but noticed that I'd gone out and started my own venture, had worked with me earlier in my career, and picked up the phone, got in touch either via LinkedIn or via the website and said, "Look, Ryan, I see what you're doing now. Would really be interested in working with you again." So yeah, I mean, as I say, people do business with people. They're not necessarily tied to a company when they're going searching for services.
Yeah, that's cool. And what have been the biggest issues you've had to overcome then?
In the last 3 years? Well, I mean, look, starting from scratch is always tough in a business like this. It's about recommendations, referrals, testimonials. So I was able to carry some of that from previous work. I spent 10 years working for a consultancy in London. Okay. But just building a brand up and actually, getting the website out there, refining the SEO and actually getting up the search results so that the phone starts ringing. Okay.
That's interesting. And a lot of those referrals, though, it's interesting, came back from way back in your career. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, roughly. 50-50, I think
Yeah.
is how our work split at the moment. 50% of our clients are here in Northern Ireland, and the other 50% are either London. We've got a client in Portugal and one in America too. Now, most of that, if not all of that, is from
Your network.
Previous, my network.
Perfect.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's kind of covered since you've been a business owner in the last 3 years. But what's been your biggest learnings in business and in life then, across your career?
I think probably don't overestimate yourself. Be a little bit humble. You don't know everything, and because the work that we do is so varied, every day is a school day, right? You're always learning about a new industry or new technology, a new manufacturing technique. And I think earlier in my career, I was a little bit gung-ho. I thought, I was very confident at the start of a project. Oh yeah, we'll have this done 2 months. The whole thing will be finished. And actually what experience teaches you is like, this is research and development. A lot of the times the projects that we're working on are things that have never been done before. And so, the experience says you need to go around the loop of prototyping and testing. And that doesn't just extend to technological advance. It also extends to customers as well. Quite often companies or startups will think they know exactly what their customer wants, and they'll come to you with quite a defined solution. And actually, as soon as you put a prototype in the customer's hands, that's when the learning really starts. That's when you find out how people interface with the product, what they actually want from the product. And that's part of the design life cycle. You feed that back in and you loop round again and you iterate to make the best possible product.
Yeah, it sounds like that might have been a difficult lesson to learn the first couple of times.
Well, thankfully, I wasn't. I wasn't the one responsible for writing the design projects at that stage of my career. I was all brimming full of confidence straight out of university, thinking, "Oh yeah, boss, I'll have this done in a couple of weeks or whatever." And I'll put 6 months in the program because he obviously knew that things don't work exactly like that in product development. It's an iterative process.
Yeah. So who has been the best coach you've ever had, and why?
The best coach?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been lucky enough to have a few really good mentors in my career. I think so. I mentioned I worked 10 years at a consultancy in London, and I had a boss there, Stephen Knowles, who was really influential from a technical perspective, as well as a kind of managerial. So he's pragmatic. That's when I was referring earlier on to, that project leader or boss telling me, okay, calm down there. We're going to get it done, and it's great that you've got all that confidence. But explaining the iterative loop, he was also able to. I mean, I graduated. At that stage, I had a bachelor's of science, went on to get my PhD while I was working with that company. But the hands-on experience that I got day to day at that company, particularly from Stephen on manufacturing techniques, the way to solve problems, difficult problems, was really invaluable and served me throughout the rest of my career.
So he in essence, he developed you and allowed you to grow then?
Yeah, I mean, that was boy to man, really. I joined there as a graduate, and over the course of 10 years, worked my way up to design engineer, then project manager, and eventually I was the director of that company before I decided to move over to Northern Ireland.
Cool. So do you have any favorite quotes or sayings?
I've got Einstein, a couple of good quotes from Einstein. One that's particularly relevant and kind of share with my staff. Quite often is, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't really understand it yourself. And actually, the ability to boil something down to simple ingredients, that's when you really understand something. We try and kind of go by that. I also like the quote from Einstein that success is 99% hard work and only 1% talent, or something along those lines. It's really putting the hours in, and
it's a good thing to bear in mind, isn't it? It's all. So, what have you learned about yourself during your journey?
I I guess how resourceful I could be. I guess running your own business. It's I've done a lot of what when I started this venture. I figured I've got all the skills. I've been doing this 10 years in London, 20 years career. I kind of know what I'm doing. Actually, running a business is quite different to being a product design consultant. I'm wearing a lot of hats. Be that marketing or finance, to learn quite a few things in both those areas. But even as simple as being your own IT department, right? If the computer stops working or your emails aren't coming in,
feel your pain.
Yeah, who are you going to call?
Okay, so what does the future look like for you, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
Well, I mean, I think the economy right now is a bit worrying. The rising energy prices. I think it's starting to. I'm perceiving a bit of a pinch in purse strings across a number of different clients that we're working with. Now, thankfully, that hasn't had a big impact on our sales pipeline at the moment. But I mean, it may well be a challenge. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in Ukraine or with Brexit and how that's all going to play out. But so those would be kind of the challenges that I first see. Obviously, technology is changing every day, every year. Things change, new technologies introduced, but we're quite adept at dealing with that and rising to that challenge. In terms of my ambitions for the business, I really want to grow Belfast product design to be internationally recognised. Northern Ireland's a great pool of talent, and unfortunately, a lot of the talent ends up leaving and going seeking employment elsewhere. But we've got a couple of really good degree programs at Queen's and at Ulster that are giving good graduates every year, and I'd like to see them stay here, develop that talent, and become recognised as a provider of design services. Like, I mean, I've got some competitors in Belfast and in the south, but I'd like to grow the business. Head and shoulders above them. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds like you're on the right track to it anyway. And what would you say to somebody who was thinking of going into business for themselves?
Don't expect success right away. It's a bumpy road, but that's part of the challenge. And it kind of carves out a stronger person and a stronger business leader that's more well versed. Jack of all trades, perhaps. You're going to have things that just blindside you, unexpected on a Tuesday afternoon, and you're going to have to deal with that. Also, I think the phrase analysis paralysis is something I've heard a few times, and I think we can all be guilty of that, whether it's deciding on a company name or what software you're going to use for your accounting, or get on with it. And I mean, things like the company name. I actually rebranded after 6 months. So a very candid person told me, this is a really abstract name. What is it that you do? Right, you design products. You're in Belfast. How about Belfast product design? And actually, that was great. But the point is, you can change your name after 6 months if it's not working for you, and you can change your accountancy package. Get on with it, I think would be my advice.
It reminds me of one of your earlier answers, and it's around that, how you actually design a product. It's having that open mind, that growth mindset to sort of say, well, the business needs to change now or be redesigned in some aspect to perform better, whether it's a rebrand or some other aspect of it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. It is. I mean, it's a constantly evolving thing, right? That you're they talk about business sometimes being a smooth running machine, right? Well, I mean, an engine needs maintenance, even when you get to that stage where it's a smooth running machine. But if you don't take that first step, or you take too long thinking about some of the basics, then you never get anything done. And the growth mindset is spot on the money. It's being humble to kind of think, okay, well, you know what, for example, that name that I came up with, just bin that. Let's move on and get this working better. So
do a better one. So last question then, if you started your business again, what would you do differently?
I think probably giving up a little bit more control. You know, when you start your own venture, you're really watching the pennies and pounds, you know, and that might be, in my case, that was designing my own website, right? And sitting there designing logos, right? And you're always going to have to write copy and give your own presentation, but actually the structure of a website, getting it up and running, your emails, your SEO, all of that, I took all of that on board. Same with all my accountancy stuff. And that really slowed me down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an expert in those things. So there was a learning curve. And I think if you can find affordable suppliers that can support you in things that you're not an expert with, then, you know, I'd probably do that differently.
Yeah, where they can add more value than you can in that area.
Exactly. You know, I mean, I'm a consultant. You know, I charge per the hour.
Yeah.
So if I think about the hours that went into designing that website, for example, I mean, you know, that should have been spent on client projects. And
an expensive website with sound of things.
I would have had a new car a lot sooner.
Look, thanks for that, Ryan. That's everything.